Coming up on News 11. The Fieldhouse becomes busier this week as the vaccine site is now in the same space as pool testing. And the health department says that the clinic won't be accepting any more walk-ins. And Governor Cuomo signs a bill that removes protection for nursing homes and hospitals that was granted during the pandemic. Lawmakers think that this is a needed step in ensuring accountability. A young boy was found stranded alone near the Texas-Mexico border. President Biden weighs in on this concerning trend. These stories and more. News 11 starts right now.
Good afternoon and welcome to News 11. I'm Andy Velez-Davis.
And I'm Brianna Howard. Students on campus may have noticed that the Fieldhouse was busier than usual this week. On top of being the pool test drop-off site, the campus vaccination clinic was also moved into the Fieldhouse. The clinic was in the hockey rink, but the Chautauqua County Emergency Preparedness Coordinator, Natalie Whitman, says that the coach wanted to put ice on the rink for the players, so the clinic had to be moved. On Tuesday of this week, many students also noted that clinic workers were accepting walk-in appointments and handing out vaccines. Whitman says that this is because the clinic received an excess of Pfizer doses that were about to expire. On top of that, more than 100 people didn't show up to their vaccine appointments, so they started handing them out to students. Whitman says that walk-ins won't happen again because that was, quote, an extenuating circumstance.
SUNY has planned to launch a program that would vaccinate residential students before the end of spring semester. SUNY has received 18,600 doses of the Johnson & Johnson vaccine that will distribute to 34 SUNY campuses across the state. A release state quote, with college students becoming eligible to receive the vaccine, SUNY strongly encourages all students to schedule appointments before the semester ends and if possible to choose point of distribution set aside specifically for college students, end quote. As for upcoming fall semester, as of now, SUNY will not require students to get COVID vaccination. SUNY Chancellor Jim Malatra says, quote, by the summertime, if we feel like there is enough students getting vaccinated, we will talk to the Board of Trustees and campus leadership to discuss a potential mandatory vaccine program, end quote.
More community-based pop-up vaccination sites are up and running in Western New York. The sites in Irving and Gowanda are some of the 18 new pop-up vaccination clinics across New York State. 18 of those sites were on Wednesday and hosted over 400 Johnson & Johnson one-dose shots. According to a tweet from Executive Mark Poloncarz, another site that happened yesterday at Prince of Peace Church in downtown Buffalo and allowed for 300 appointments. The Erie County Department of Health has also announced that another pop-up location is being held at Greater Faith Bible Tabernacle Church in downtown Buffalo on Tuesday, April 13th.
Your back-to-school supply list may include one more next year if you attend Cornell University. This past week, the Ivy League announced that returning students will be required to be vaccinated before returning for the fall semester. But with the COVID vaccine site right here on campus, surpassing the total of 6,700 first doses administered already, there has been talk of whether or not SUNY Fredonia will mandate Fredonia students to receive the vaccine before the fall semester as well. Now that every student at SUNY Fredonia is capable of getting the vaccine, Mike Witzger of FSA says, though it is highly encouraged, it won't be mandated because they're not allowed to.
Are based on emergency approval. So until the drug receives full FDA approval, we wouldn't be in the position to be able to require it. So that'll be some time before we'd be able to require it.
Has been distributing both second doses and first doses in the Fieldhouse for the past 2 weeks and plans to continue to hold the vaccination clinic there for Chautauqua County. Wesker encourages all Fredonia students to get vaccine while they are available.
Buffalo Bills quarterback Josh Allen has recently shared his thoughts regarding the COVID-19 vaccine. When asked about whether or not he will get vaccinated on the podcast 10 Questions with Kyle Brandt, Allen says, quote, "I don't know. I'm still debating that," end quote. Allen says he will be monitoring statistics and will make his decision from there. Medical experts and the Erie County Health Department advise people to educate themselves before making a decision on whether or not to get vaccinated by viewing data from sources such as the CDC and the FDA.
Graduation has officially begun here at SUNY Fredonia. This year, the graduation ceremony is being taped in April to be released on graduation day, May 15th. Unlike some colleges like the University at Buffalo, Fredonia decided to take things hybrid due to the pandemic. The classes of 2021 and the class of 2020 will be able to walk the graduation stage to receive their diplomas in the field house. Each graduate has signed up for a certain time slot, which allows proper social distancing and limits the amount of people at the event at the time.
As the graduation walks begin for the class of 2021 this week, there has been some controversy about graduation, what graduates are allowed to wear while walking the stage. This year, the school wanted to limit the use of graduation cords to just honor students. This limited the annual tradition, allowing the 170 clubs and organizations to wear cords as well. However, with the amount of confusion and negative backlash of this decision, the Graduation Planning Committee retracted their decision until next year. President Stephen H. Collison explained to our News 11 crew why this decision was created in the first place.
I think what it was that they were trying to make sure there is distinction, right? So you have those who are student leaders, and you have those who are members of certain groups, and then you have those who is purely academic. I think the effort was to make sure the distinctions are crystal clear, right? But I think the only thing was not everybody got the memo, so to speak.
Collison also said that the Graduation Planning Committee will reevaluate the decision again during the summer or fall semester to determine if they will allow the class of 2022 to wear graduation cords.
Governor Cuomo has released a final deal on the New York State budget totaling $212 billion, the most of his 10-year tenure. The bill is set to give billions to small business education and rent relief. The deal comes after years of Cuomo opposing increases in tax and spending at tax hikes. The budget will raise taxes for around 50,000 New York State residents and will introduce new tax brackets for residents making more than $5 million a year. This new taxes are expected to make over $1 billion annually for the state. The bill will also legalize online sports gambling in New York. This comes 2 years after New Jersey's successful implementation of online sports books. Governor Cuomo hopes that the incoming revenue will help the state in the aftermath of the COVID-19 crisis. The plan will be organized by the New York State Gambling Commission. The commission has estimated that online gambling will be able to be accessed as early as the end of the year.
And on Tuesday, Governor Andrew Cuomo also signed a bill that removes protections granted to nursing homes during the pandemic. The Treatment and the Protection Act protected facilities like nursing homes from being responsible for damages during the pandemic. State Senator Alessandra Bijagi supports the repeal, saying that it puts the well-being of nursing homes residents first, and because the pandemic, quote, has exposed a dire need to guarantee transparency and accountability, end quote. The legislation comes soon after Cuomo and his administration were under fire for withholding and misleading data on the number of nursing home deaths related to COVID-19.
After 30 years, Van Buren Drive being revamped and reopened, Dan and Gina Beckley announced their plans to restore it, and there will be some exciting updates. The drive will now have 3 screens, and they're rebuilding the concession stand so everyone can enjoy their favorite classics like popcorn, hot dogs, burgers, and candy. 2 of the screens will be first-run screens, meaning they can show brand new releases. The other will be second-run screens playing previously released movies. And this is a LED wall, which means those movies can be screened during the day. The Beckleys hope to use the large outdoor areas for more than just movies. They said they would like to host car shows and jazz festivals paired with films that fit the those themes. The Beckleys are aiming to open the drive-in around mid-May and ask the public to submit ideas for events at www.vanburendrivein.fun.
Moving now to Buffalo, Ready Bike Share and Independent Health announced the start of the 2021 bike sharing season Monday. This season will be Freddie's 6th year in Buffalo and their 2nd full year in Niagara Falls. There will be 400 bikes available in about 90 different locations. Residents of Niagara Falls who are 18 and older can purchase an annual pass for $1. All other Western New Yorkers who sign up for an annual pass in the month of April will receive a 50% discount by using the redeemable code READY2RIDE. Ready says it saw an increase of new riders in 2020, more than the program served in its previous 4 years.
A new dog park with a bar is coming to Cheektowaga this month. Cheektowaga native Megan Sitatrick is transforming an old warehouse located on Genesee Street into an indoor/outdoor dog park with a bar in the park will be called Barkology and will be designed to be dirt-free in an indoor space of rubber floors and an outdoor area made of turf. All dogs must be leashed at the bar area. The bar will offer wine, cider, beer, and small food options. It's the perfect location for social dog owners and social dogs. Seastrick says, quote, "In the summer we're hoping to have some live music. Eventually there will be a beer garden outside," end quote. Barkology is set to open April 17th. Entry to the park will cost $10 for your first dog and be discounted for any additional dogs you have.
Well, we at least have ended on a high note. After the break, your national headlines: a child found alone on the border, a toxic spill in Florida, and that Arkansas passes a controversial law. We'll be back.
We've been down there. You gotta do the same. Post office. All you do is sign. So don't get nervous. Sign your name. Selective service. It takes no time. Just sign on the line at the post office. Selective service.
Hey guys, if you're about to turn 18, you've got to register with Selective Service. It's simple. Just go down to the post office, fill out a card, and turn it in. That's all there is to it. There's no draft now. You're just adding your name to Selective Service's list in case there's a national emergency.
So if you're 18 now, Selective Service, you gotta get down to the post office.
Register with Selective Service. It's quick, it's easy, and it's the law.
Takes no time. Just sign on the line at the post office. Selective Service.
In Arkansas, Governor Asa Hutchinson signed a law banning transgender women and girls from competing in school sports teams consistent with their gender identity, making it the second state to approve this restriction. Hundreds of college athletes have also urged the NCAA to refuse to hold championships in states that enact such bans. This law simply says that female athletes should not have to compete in a sport against a student of the male sex, but if the sport is designed for women's competition, Hutchinson said in a statement. He also said that this is to help promote and maintain fairness in women's sporting events. The head of the Human Rights Campaign, the nation's largest LGBTQ rights groups, called Hutchinson's decision, quote, "an affront not just to the transgender kids it is bound to hurt, but to all Arkansans who will be impacted by consequences," end quote. The only state to have this restriction is Idaho, who enacted a law curtailing transgender student sports participation. That 2020 measure is blocked by a court ruling as a lawsuit plays out.
Last week, a frightened 10-year-old boy from Nicaragua told a Texas Border Patrol official that he'd been abandoned by a larger group and was without his parents. Custom and Border Protection say that the boy who had been walking found alone on a rural road near La Grula, Texas. The boy is currently safe at a Border Patrol facility and will be transferred to the Department of Health and Human Services, Office of the Refugee Resettlement. The incident comes amid a rise of the border of unaccompanied minors fleeing conditions in Central America and other places. places. The Biden administration's policy hopes to expel migrants except minors who come alone, which is the change from the Trump administration policy. President Joe Biden said that there is a seasonal increase in migration and has stated that most people arriving at the border are being turned away. Biden says, quote, "The only people we are not going to let sit there on the other side of the Rio Grande by themselves with no help are children," end quote.
On Sunday night, a riot broke out at the City Justice Center in St. Louis, Missouri. Inmates at the jail broke windows to get attention of spectators below as they began throwing furniture and clothing out of the windows. Some could be heard chanting, quote, "We want court dates and we need help," end quote. Advocates of some of those in this jail have said that many have been awaiting court dates for the last year because of the pandemic. By 10:15 p.m., fires were being put out and inmates were escorted away from the scene until a second incident occurred around 11 p.m. Objects were again thrown from the third floor and rope made of bed sheets was lured down to the ground. Though nobody climbed down, 50 to 75 supporters stood in support on the ground to protest in the jail's inhumane conditions. On Monday morning, a mayoral spokesperson reported that there were no serious injuries.
Florida Governor Ron DeSantis declared a state of emergency on Saturday after a significant leak at the large pond at the Old Piney Point phosphate mine threatened to burst a system that stores water polluted with radioactive materials. The pond at the Old Piney Point phosphate mine sits in a stack of phosphogypsum, a waste product from manufacturing fertilizer that is radioactive. It contains small amounts of naturally occurring radium and uranium. The stacks can also release large concentrations of radon gas. Officials ordered more than 300 homes evacuated and closed off the highway near the large reservoir in the Tampa Bay area north of Bradenton. The State Department of Environmental Protection said a break was detected on Friday in one wall of a 77-acre pond that has a depth of 25 feet and holds millions of gallons of water containing phosphorus and nitrogen from the old phosphate plant. George Cruz said, quote, "We determined that it was no longer safe to be anywhere near Piney Point, so we all kind of raced off the stacks as fast as we could," end quote.
President Joe Biden is looking to shift from liquid-fueled cars to electric. He has proposed an infrastructure plan which will include billions of dollars to help pay for 500,000 electric vehicle charging stations, electrify public vehicles, and enhance the nation's power grid. The goal behind the president's proposal is to help address climate change. Jeff Cooper, head of the St. Louis-based Renewable Fuels Association, said, quote, "If the goal is to reduce carbon impacts of our transportation sector, and we knew we were going to be using hundreds of billions of gallons of liquid fuels for the next several decades, why not take steps now to reduce the carbon intensity of those liquid fuels," end quote. However, the auto industry feels that this is the wrong time for the country to switch over to electric, as they could easily be increasing sales of ethanol and biodiesel.
The Texas Rangers welcomed a crowd of over 38,000 fans for the team's home opener. This marks the first full-capacity sporting event since the start of the COVID-19 pandemic shut down the country over a year ago. The Rangers are the only Major League Baseball team to allow capacity attendance. This is due in part from Governor Greg Abbott getting rid of the mask restrictions throughout the state. The Rangers website states that 100% of attendees must wear masks except when eating or drinking. The decision to open to full capacity has been met with criticism from the current presidential administration. President Joe Biden stated that hosting a full stadium was a, quote, "a mistake," and urged the state to listen to Dr. Fauci and scientists and experts. Governor Greg Abbott refused to throw out the ceremonial first pitch, citing the MLB's decision to move to the All-Star game from Atlanta in the wake of the city passing its restrictive voter law.
On Wednesday, China's government warned Washington not to boycott next year's Winter Olympics after Biden administration said it was talking with allies about a joint approach to complaints of human rights abuses. Human rights groups are protesting China's hosting of the games and have urged a boycott or other measures to call attention to accusation of Chinese abuses against Uyghurs, Tibetans, and residents in Hong Kong. The U.S. Department suggested an Olympic boycott was among the possibilities, but a Senate official said later that a boycott has not been discussed, according to the U.S. Olympic Committee. Boycott put unfair pressure on corporate sponsors who provide the bulk of financial support for the athletes and athletic programs over the long term. White House Press Secretary Jen Psaki and Biden administration said that the White House is not looking at boycott of the 2022 Olympics, and they're hoping that by the time the event comes around, enough people in the U.S. and around the world will be vaccinated against COVID-19.
A teen in Iowa won the $25,000 at the Rogerian Science Talent Search for her invention of sutures that change color to warn possible infections. Daza Taylor, a senior of Iowa City West High School, said she came up with the idea in October 2019 after reading about sutures coated with a material that can detect a woman's status after using the juice from nearly 3 dozen beets. Taylor learned that sutures worked when the color of the beet juice would turn from red to dark purple if a surgical wound were infected. According to the National Library of Medicine, the average pH level of healthy skin is a 5, but goes up to a 9 when a wound is infected. In an interview with the Smithsonian, Taylor said she became interested in infections, particularly those that occur after cesarean sections in impoverished nations, because she couldn't help but look at it through an equity lens. And when we come back, we'll take a look at sports with Kevin.
We've been down there to the post office. You gotta do the same. Post office. All you do is sign. So don't get nervous. Sign your name for selective service. It takes no time. Just sign on the line at the post office for selective service.
Hey guys, if you're about to turn 18, you got to register with Selective Service. It's simple. Just go down to the post office, fill out a card, and turn it in. That's all there is to it. There's no draft now. You're just adding your name to Selective Service's list in case there's a national emergency.
So if you're 18 now, selective service, you gotta get down to the post office.
Register with Selective Service. It's quick, it's easy, and it's the law.
Takes no time. Just sign on the line at the post office for selective service.
Hello, welcome back. We're here with Kevin doing the sports. Hi, Kevin, so you said that we can't have sports people in the sports stands this year, right?
Yeah, so even though Governor Cuomo announced last Tuesday that collegiate sports in New York State can have a limited amount of fans in the stands, the SUNYAC announced on Wednesday that they will still not allow any spectators into the rest of the spring games. The SUNYAC President's Council stated, quote, "After having the 2020 spring season canceled due to the pandemic, the focus of the SUNYAC is to ensure spring sports student athletes are able to compete in 2021 without losing a second season," end quote. As for our local college teams, the baseball team is currently in the first of 2 games today in Brockport. The softball team will be in Geneseo tomorrow for a doubleheader starting at noon, and the lacrosse team plays at 1 o'clock tomorrow at Brockport. The softball team is the first of the 3 teams to win this year, as Maria Cavares' walk-off sac fly gave the Blue Devils a 3-2 victory in 8 innings over Buff State on Wednesday. And as for the major leagues, the MLB is working on a plan that would relocate the Buffalo Bisons to Trenton, New Jersey for the 2021 season. The Toronto Blue Jays, who played 26 games in Buffalo last season, are scheduled to play their home games at their spring training facility in Dunedin, Florida until May 24th. The Blue Jays will need to get approval by the Canadian government to return to the Rogers Centre in Toronto. But if international travel is still restricted, it is likely that Buffalo will once again be the home of the Toronto Blue Jays.
All right, thank you, Kevin. We're going to toss to Chloe for the weather.
Thanks, Andy. So tonight here in Fredonia will be partly cloudy with a high of 48 degrees. There's a 50% chance for rain, so be sure to bring your sunscreen tomorrow, as it'll be a high of 80 degrees with a low of 57. I'll be back in a few with your 5-day forecast.
Thank you, Chloe. How are you feeling about your first time doing the weather?
It's different. I really like it, and I'm really excited. Everyone here has been so nice and welcoming me with open arms, so yeah, I'm really excited.
Amazing. We're excited to have you here.
Thank you.
After the break, more COVID concerns around the world. The UK faces problems with AstraZeneca vaccine, and Brazil faces an amounting death toll. We'll be right back.
Different kinds of pipes that freeze for different reasons. To protect yours, wrap insulation around exposed pipes. If a hard freeze is forecast, open the doors under sinks and let the hot and cold faucets trickle overnight. Leave the heat on if you're leaving town. Following these steps can get you through cold weather on a high note.
During World War II, recycling was a way of life on the home front. Rubber, tin cans, cooking grease, paper, scrap iron, those and many more items were recycled for the war effort. It was a time of crisis. The nation desperately needed new sources of raw materials. Millions of Americans were united in a common cause. Today we face a crisis no less real, but of another sort. A solid waste crisis that can no longer be ignored. We are simply running out of places to put our garbage. With your help, we can meet this new challenge as well. Source separation and recycling will save valuable space in our landfills and help protect our drinking water and the air we breathe. Together, we Americans can win the war against waste. Start recycling today.
Brazil has now recorded the world's worst daily death toll from COVID-19, with yesterday's count at 4,000. Throughout the pandemic, President Bolsonaro has consistently played down the severity and effects of the virus, calling it nothing more than a little flu. The country now has its first recorded case of the Southern African variant of the coronavirus. But even as cases and deaths rises, a more serious concern for inland indigenous populations, Bolsonaro continues to resist lockdown measures. Sao Paulo, the largest city in the Western Hemisphere, will be opening 600 new graves every day to keep up, already breaking up the record from the last month. Plus, the government was slow to prepare vaccine rollout compared to other countries. That paired with the South African variant as well as the Brazilian variant. Experts predict the country may overtake the U.S. in number of deaths and cases.
In the UK, 79 people suffered from rare blood clots after taking the COVID-19 vaccine. 19 of the 79 people died. Because of this, UK regulators are now offering an alternative vaccine to those who are under 30. The vaccine will be an alternative to the AstraZeneca Oxford dose. For older people, the benefits from the vaccine outweigh the risks. European regulator is now looking into other vaccines if they pose any of the same risks.
Malaysia is currently in the process of returning 81 containers of illegal plastic waste back to their countries of origin. Since 2019, Malaysia has sent back 267 containers of illegal waste in total. Before 2018, China was often the country of choice for other nations' plastic waste disposal. But after China banned those imports in 2018, nations like Malaysia have become the new destination. However, on January 1st, the United Nations put the new rules into effect regarding the trade of certain hazardous wastes. These regulations were meant to discourage the product of non-recyclable plastics that would then be transported to and pollute developing nations. The United States currently produces the most plastic waste per person than any other country. In other current treaty regulations, Malaysia cannot accept any of the prohibited plastic waste.
So now that to lighten the mood, we're going to do a little bit of odd news. We're going to start. Wow, those are some devastating stories, and we're going to catch up with some odd news stories after the pandemic forced many restaurants to ramp up their takeout game to the demand for handy individual ketchup packets quickly skyrocketed. Ketchup packets in short supply right now, and restaurants' fast food chains are struggling to keep up with the demand. Kraft Heinz, the most well-known ketchup manufacturer, makes up nearly 70% of the U.S. retail market for ketchup. With more people eating at home, ketchup bottle sales have also increased 15% in the last year to over $1 billion in 2020. As a result of the supply chain shortage, many restaurants are limiting the number of packets if they give customers, or are resorting to purchasing generic ketchup brands they don't normally use. Steve Cornell, Kraft Heinz president of the Enhancers, says the company is working hard to keep up the demand for those coveted ketchup packets as the takeout industry continues to explode. Looking ahead, the company is banking on its multiple new production lines, which they hope will yield a 25% increase in production, amounting to 12 billion ketchup packets in a year.
After what should have been a routine grocery trip on a leisurely Sunday afternoon, a New Mexico man was shocked to return to his car and find some unexpected visitors waiting for him, thousands of bees in his back seat. Earlier this week, the man, whose name has not been released, left Albertsons grocery store in La Cruces and placed his groceries in his vehicle. He had left his windows open while food shopping, officials say. It wasn't until he started to drive off that he noticed thousands of bees taking the trip with him. All right, so those are some wacky ones, huh?
Yeah.
We got the bees.
Do you prefer ketchup or ranch for your fries?
I prefer ketchup, so we'll toss it to
Chloe for
Chloe.
the rest of the week.
Thank you, Andy and Bree. So here's our 5-day outlook. We can expect the weather to cool down a little next week with a chance for rain on Sunday and a high of 67 degrees. Sunday's low will be 50. Monday will be a little chilly with a high of 58 degrees and rain. Thursday will be partly cloudy with a high of 58 degrees. You can expect partly cloudy skies and showers for the rest of the week.
Thanks, Chloe. That does it for News 11 this week. As always, thank you for our crew members in the studio and the control room.
We'll be back next week with more news. Have a great day.